The night air smelled of rain and exhaust, sharp and metallic against Alicia Freeman's skin. She crouched behind her car, phone trembling in her hand, recording the scene unfolding on her quiet suburban street. Officer Daniel Hawthorne loomed over a young man pinned to the pavement, his knee pressing into the curve of the boy's shoulder. "Move your hands." I said move. Hawthorne barked, eyes darting to Alicia, who raised her phone. "You don't need to film this," he snapped, voice low, venomous. "Mind your business, lady." Alicia's pulse thudded in her ears. She swallowed the instinctive panic. "No, I can't look away." She knew the stakes. Another story of a black man brutalized, erased, silenced. The young man's eyes flicked toward her, pleading, and for a fraction of a second, the street seemed impossibly quiet, the rain suspended in midair. Then Hawthorne's hand shot toward her camera. "Step away now," he said, voice like a whip. Alicia's fingers tightened around the phone. "You can't just... You're overstepping." "Watch yourself," he cut her off, his lips curling into a sneer. Alicia felt a familiar swell of anger and fear collide in her chest. She could already feel the invisible line Hawthorne had drawn. Her rights didn't exist here. Then he leaned in closer, eyes narrowing. "You think you're untouchable?" Alicia froze. The streetlight above flickered, casting Hawthorne's shadow over her like a threat made solid. And before she could react, he reached for the phone. The streetlights flickered above Lakewood Drive, casting irregular patches of yellow over damp pavement. Alicia Freeman gripped her phone, the cold metal against her fingers grounding her as she crouched behind her car. She had only meant to record a routine patrol, just to document another night where the color of someone's skin dictated suspicion. But the moment she saw Officer Hawthorne looming over the young man sprawled on the asphalt, something in her chest tightened. "Move your hands." I said move. Hawthorne barked, knee pressing into the boy's shoulder. Alicia's camera captured every twitch of panic, every strained breath. The rain fell in a soft hiss, dripping from the brim of her hood. She could smell the metallic tang of blood. Or was it just the boy's adrenaline? "You don't need to film this," Hawthorne snapped, pivoting toward her, eyes narrowed. "Mind your business, lady." Alicia's pulse surged. She knew her rights, knew that filming an officer in public was legal, but the knowledge did little against the suffocating weight of his presence. She raised her phone higher. "I'm not moving." "You can't." "You're overstepping. Watch yourself." Hawthorne's voice cut through the night like a whip. Alicia froze, seeing the way his hand twitched toward his belt, the subtle flex of authority meant to intimidate. Her fingers tightened on the phone. She felt the young man's gaze on her, desperate, fearful, pleading. "Step away now," Hawthorne ordered, closing the distance. "Why? What?" Alicia started, but he silenced her with a sneer. "You think you're untouchable?" The street seemed to shrink, each puddle reflecting her own wide-eyed terror. And then it happened, a sharp metallic click. Handcuffs. Her stomach sank as Hawthorne grabbed for her wrist, twisting her arm behind her back with efficient brutality. "Stop resisting," he muttered. Alicia's phone skittered across the wet asphalt. Her heart pounded so loudly she could barely hear the young man's panicked whimpers. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, their expressions frozen in silent judgment or fear. No one moved. "You're under arrest," Hawthorne said, his voice unnervingly calm now, as if the act of power gave him pleasure, "for interference and obstruction." Alicia's mind raced. This couldn't be happening. She had spent years fighting for justice, standing up for others who were voiceless. And now she was a target. Alicia's breath came in sharp bursts. Not again. Not me. The cuffs dug into her wrists. She caught a final glimpse of the young man, still on the pavement, eyes wide with fear and disbelief. Then Hawthorne shoved her toward the squad car, leaving her dignity scattered across the rain-slicked street. And in that moment, Alicia realized something chilling. The fight she had always fought for others was now hers to endure. The fluorescent lights of the precinct flickered overhead as Alicia Freeman was led inside, handcuffed, her wrists stinging from Hawthorne's tight grip. The smell of disinfectant mixed with stale coffee filled the small booking area. A buzz of indistinct chatter came from the back office. Other officers, some laughing, some shuffling papers, the air thick with routine bureaucracy. ID? A clerk asked, not looking up from her computer screen. Alicia began, but the words caught in her throat. Her mind raced, trying to remember every legal right she had ever memorized. She had trained others to demand fairness, to stay calm under intimidation. And now, that knowledge felt useless. Cuff removal and booking first, Hawthorne interjected, his tone sharp, almost gleeful. Let's see how brave you are under real circumstances. Alicia met his gaze, a flash of defiance sparking in her chest. You can't just... This is harassment. I'm filming for accountability. Hawthorne smirked, stepping closer. Accountability? Lady, you're making a scene. And scenes in my precinct have consequences. A clerk tapped her keyboard impatiently, glancing up at Alicia as if confirming that she was merely an annoyance, not a person. Name? She asked monotone. Alicia Freeman, she said, voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside. I demand to speak with my attorney before any processing continues. Hawthorne laughed softly, leaning against the counter with a casual arrogance that made Alicia's skin crawl. An attorney? You're lucky I don't charge you with resisting arrest on top of interference. You think you're untouchable just because you know the law. Alicia's stomach knotted. She had faced pushback before, but never like this. Never with a man who wielded authority like a weapon, twisting it to serve his ego. I've defended people like you before, she said, her voice low but firm. Do you really want to test how far my fight can go? Hawthorne's eyes narrowed, but he said nothing. A silence stretched across the room, filled only by the dull hum of fluorescent lights and the occasional metallic clang of keys from the back office. Alicia's phone, still recording, she realized, had been confiscated. Every frame, every detail of his harassment now lay beyond her reach. Anger surged, hot and suffocating. She had documented injustice countless times, and now she herself had become the victim. Paperwork first, Hawthorne said finally, voice low. Then we'll see if the district attorney agrees with your interpretation of rights. The cuffs dug deeper into her skin as she was guided toward the processing room. She kept her head high, forcing herself to breathe slowly. Inside, the room smelled of antiseptic and anxiety. Other arrestees sat quietly, eyes down, silently enduring. The contrast between them and Alicia struck her. She wasn't just any woman. They would not ignore her, because her name carried weight. She was civil rights director. But Hawthorne didn't know that yet. Any personal belongings? The booking officer asked, indifferent. Yes, and I expect a receipt for them, Alicia replied. Every instruction she gave was precise, calculated. Every word a small act of resistance. Hawthorne stepped closer, leaning over her shoulder. You're lucky you're not someone who get thrown in a hole for talking back, he said. Most people don't have your nerve. Alicia didn't flinch. She let the anger simmer, shaping it into strategy. You misunderstand me. My nerve isn't a privilege. It's a responsibility. And you, officer, are the one under scrutiny now. Hawthorne's smirk faltered slightly. Bold words, he muttered, then laughed, a short, sharp bark. I like that. But bold words don't keep you out of cuffs. She was led to the bench where other detainees were processed. The overhead camera watched, unfeeling, recording her every move. Alicia studied the officers around her, their body language, the subtle nods, the dismissive shrugs. Some seemed almost amused, others bored, a few resentful. The precinct was a stage, and Hawthorne was both actor and director. Alicia's mind flashed back to the young man on the street, his eyes wide with fear. He hadn't done anything wrong, just existed in a world that assumed the worst because of his skin. And now she understood intimately what that fear felt like. The injustice wasn't abstract. It was tangible, crushing, intimate. You're next, a clerk said, flipping through a folder. Alicia approached the counter, her wrists aching. She gave her statement calmly, reciting facts with clarity. Hawthorne hovered nearby, silent but heavy, watching her every word. You think this little performance will change anything? He said quietly, almost to himself. You'll see. The system doesn't bend for people like you. Alicia's eyes locked on his. The system bends when enough people push it. And I am not alone. Processing completed. She was moved to a holding area. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and fear. She sat on the cold bench, cuffs now loosened but still present, and surveyed the space. Every detainee seemed to shrink into themselves. Every officer seemed to calculate their power. And somewhere deep inside, Alicia knew she would have to navigate both with care. Her phone had been confiscated, but the images remained in her mind. The young man on the street, the rain-slicked pavement, Hawthorne's sneer. She replayed the scene repeatedly, taking mental notes. Every microaggression, every threat, every hesitation by bystanders would matter. She would use it all. A faint buzz interrupted her thoughts. The holding officer approached. "You have a call," he said. Alicia's heart skipped. An attorney? A colleague? She nodded and was handed the phone, her fingers brushing against cold metal. "Freeman," came a familiar voice. "We saw the footage circulating online. Are you okay?" Alicia's jaw tightened. "I'll be fine," she said, her tone steady. "But the officer who arrested me, he's not. And this." She gestured to a small, sterile room. "This will not be ignored." The line went silent for a moment, heavy with unspoken implications. "Stay calm," the voice advised finally. "We'll get you out, and we'll make sure this is documented. You've got leverage." Leverage. The word settled in her chest like a stone. Hawthorne had no idea who he had just arrested. The very position he assumed gave him a sense of untouchable power. But Alicia Freeman had decades of experience, allies, and systems at her disposal. The sound of the cell door clanging shut echoed through the hall. Alicia leaned back, let her shoulders sag slightly. Fear was present, yes, but it was sharpened into resolve. She would not be silent. She would not be erased. Hours passed, filled with procedural monotony, fingerprints, mugshots, endless questions. But Alicia kept mental track of every irregularity, every procedural misstep. Each was a thread, each a piece of the story she would later unfold. By the time Hawthorne finally stepped into the holding area, his swagger had not diminished, but something in his eyes flickered. Curiosity? Annoyance? Caution? Alicia did not smile, did not acknowledge him directly. She only observed, noting his movements, committing his arrogance to memory. "You'll pay for this," he muttered under his breath as he passed. Alicia's lips pressed into a thin line. "No, officer. Justice will pay for you." And in that moment, she understood something crucial. The fight she had waged for others would now be waged for herself. And she intended to win. Alicia Freeman sat stiffly in the interview room, the sterile walls closing in around her. The fluorescent lights flickered intermittently, buzzing faintly, casting shadows that seemed to crawl along the corners. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and damp carpet, a combination that made the air feel heavier than it should. Across the table, Officer Hawthorne leaned back, his badge glinting under the harsh light, lips curled in a smirk that suggested both confidence and cruelty. "You're persistent. I'll give you that," he said, voice smooth but edged with malice. Most people would shut up by now. Alicia met his gaze evenly. Persistence is called accountability. Something you should be familiar with, but clearly aren't. He chuckled, a short, sharp sound that made her stomach twist. Accountability, huh? You think a little camera footage changes anything here? This isn't one of your activist meetings. This is real life, Freeman. Real life, Alicia said, her tone sharp, is when people like you abuse authority and no one notices. Until now. Hawthorne's smirk faltered, just slightly, like a crack forming in concrete. He glanced at the officer monitoring the recording equipment, then back at her. "You don't get it, do you? Here, your words are meaningless. The rules bend for us, not for you." Alicia leaned forward, her voice dropping to a controlled whisper that somehow carried more power than Hawthorne's sneer. "And that's exactly why you're going to regret this. Every step you take now is on record. Every misstep, every intimidation, She paused, letting the weight of her words hang in the air. "Every abuse of power you've ever committed, I will expose. Don't underestimate me." He laughed, almost bitterly. "Expose me? You're just a woman with a camera. You think a few recordings and complaints make a dent in what we do every day? I've been here 20 years. I've seen people like you come and go. You won't change a thing. Alicia's eyes narrowed. You forget, Officer Hawthorne, I'm not just anyone. I've fought cases, advocated for policies, and held institutions accountable. I am Civil Rights Director. And you, sir, just made the mistake of underestimating me. Hawthorne's expression darkened. For the first time, his control seemed to wobble. You're bluffing. Alicia didn't flinch. Bluffing is for those who don't know the law. I know it. You will answer for this in more ways than one. The officer monitoring the room shifted uncomfortably. We can't, he began, but Hawthorne cut him off with a sharp glance. I said this stays between us. Hawthorne snapped, voice rising. She doesn't get to lecture me. Alicia's hand twitched, almost imperceptibly. The cuffs had been removed, but the memory of their bite lingered. She had been processed, logged, cataloged like an object. But this room, the stifling smallness of it, the echo of authority in every corner, was her stage now. She refused to be invisible. Every word you just said, she countered softly, is being documented. Every intimidation, every threat, every single one. You are not above scrutiny. You never were. Hawthorne's jaw tightened, a barely contained flare of anger. He looked away, pacing slowly, trying to regain his composure. You have no idea what you're up against, he muttered, almost to himself. Alicia took a deep breath, letting his own words sink in. She didn't know what she was up against. Years of systemic bias, complacent colleagues, institutional cover-ups. But she had allies too and strategy. And for every complacent officer, there were lawyers, journalists, witnesses waiting for her to act. The door opened, and a senior lieutenant stepped in, clipboard in hand. Freeman, he said, tone neutral, you'll be held here until further notice. Officer Hawthorne will submit his incident report, and we'll see how this progresses administratively. Hawthorne straightened, trying to mask unease with authority. This is nothing, he said smoothly, though the sharp edges of irritation leaked through. She's just Don't, Alicia interrupted, voice low but deadly calm. Every insult, every slur you've ever muttered about someone you're supposed to protect, is recorded in your actions, and now I am part of that record. The lieutenant raised an eyebrow but said nothing, leaving the tension between Alicia and Hawthorne thick in the room. Hawthorne took a step closer, lowering his voice. You're lucky I don't have more charges just to keep you here longer. You're making this personal. Alicia tilted her head, letting a hint of incredulity seep in. Personal? You've been personal with every black person you've harassed, every citizen you've intimidated with your badge. I'm just the first one who can hold you accountable. For a moment, Hawthorne said nothing. He was blinking faster now, a subtle sign of his growing frustration. Alicia noted it like a strategist observing the battlefield. You will regret this, he said finally, teeth clenched. You think your position gives you power over me? It doesn't. You underestimate how far a camera, a witness, and the law can reach, Alicia replied evenly. And you underestimate the people who have my back. The lieutenant cleared his throat. Officer Hawthorne, step back, he instructed. Hawthorne's jaw twitched, and for a fleeting moment, Alicia thought she saw the confidence in his posture fracture. She sat back, finally allowing herself a shallow exhale. Every word he had spoken, every subtle threat, every attempt to intimidate, it all reinforced her understanding of how deeply the system enabled him. And yet, she also saw its cracks, its vulnerabilities. Hours dragged on. Alicia's mind raced with possibilities. Lawyers, procedural motions, internal complaints. Every scenario unfolded in her mind, each step calculated, each word measured. She had been trained for moments like this, though she had hoped never to face them herself. Finally, the door opened again, and an officer brought a chair and a stack of papers. Statements to sign, he said, and a request for any additional witnesses or evidence. Alicia's heart surged. This was her foothold, her chance to document everything, to turn the tables. Every misstep Hawthorne made was now a thread she could pull, unraveling the illusion of his untouchable power. Witnesses, she said slowly, voice carrying authority. The young man from the street, anyone who saw the incident, and any body cam footage. Everything. Every detail matters. The officer nodded, glancing at Hawthorne. Noted, he muttered. Hawthorne's eyes narrowed, lips pressed into a hard line. You think you've already won, he said, voice low. You haven't even begun. Alicia tilted her chin, meeting his gaze unwaveringly. No, Officer Hawthorne, she replied, calm and deliberate. This is where the fight begins. And it begins with the truth. The night outside deepened. Rain continued to drizzle against the window. Each drop a metronome marking the slow passage of time, each second bringing Alicia closer to action. In that fluorescent-lit room, she plotted her next moves. Evidence, legal avenues, allies, public awareness. Every detail mattered. Every conversation counted. She would be methodical, relentless. Hawthorne, still standing near the door, could feel the shift in the room. For the first time, the weight of the moment Alicia Freeman stepped out of the precinct the next morning. The air was thick with a hum of early traffic and the faint tang of wet asphalt. Reporters' cameras flashed like lightning. Microphones thrust forward as she approached. Smartphones recorded from every angle, capturing her expression, her words, every measured gesture. Alicia adjusted her jacket and squared her shoulders. She knew what she was about to face. Scrutiny, questions, misinterpretations. But she also knew the truth and the power of evidence. Ms. Freeman, can you tell us what happened last night? A reporter asked, voice insistent, eager for sound bites. Yes, Alicia replied firmly, holding the microphone's glare. I was arrested while filming a police officer harassing a young man on my street. The arrest was without cause, and the intimidation was blatant. This is not an isolated incident. It reflects systemic issues that must be addressed. A cluster of cameras clicked in unison, capturing her words for broadcast, for social media, for the countless eyes that would soon see every nuance of the encounter. A hawkish cameraman shoved slightly closer. Do you fear retaliation from the officer? He asked, voice rising over the hum of the city. Alicia's jaw tightened. I've faced intimidation before. Fear is temporary. Accountability is permanent. As she spoke, her phone buzzed relentlessly in her bag. Texts from colleagues, legal aides, community leaders. The news had already spread online. Hashtags like hashtag Justice for Alicia and hashtag Lakewood Harassment trended within minutes. Footage of her arrest circulated on Twitter, Instagram, and local news feeds. The scene replayed over and over, each replay fueling outrage. Nearby, a small crowd of supporters gathered, holding signs. Accountability now. Stop police harassment. Their murmurs of encouragement mingled with Alicia's own focus, reminding her she wasn't alone. Inside the precinct, Hawthorne scrolled through the same feeds, his jaw stiffening with each post. He muttered under his breath, "This is impossible. She can't." His colleagues watched, some shifting uncomfortably. A few smirked, whispering, "Looks like the tables have turned." Hawthorne slammed his hand on the desk, rattling pens and papers. "I handled this my way." She had no right. Right or not, one officer said cautiously, "The video is out. People are seeing everything." Hawthorne's face darkened. The confidence that had carried him through decades of unchecked authority faltered under the glare of public scrutiny. For the first time, he realized a danger he had underestimated. The reach of documentation, the amplification of truth through social platforms, and the fact that Alicia Freeman was no ordinary bystander. Meanwhile, Alicia spoke with reporters in rapid succession, her voice steady and unwavering. This isn't just about one incident or one officer. It's about the culture that allows harassment to go unchecked, that rewards aggression, and that silences those who dare to speak out. We cannot normalize abuse. We cannot turn away. Change begins with accountability. Her words cut through the static of news chatter, resonating in the feeds of viewers across the city. Comments poured in, support, outrage, even fear. But Alicia didn't flinch. She had spent years in public advocacy, navigating hostile meetings and skeptical audiences. This was familiar terrain, only now it was deeply personal. A cameraman from a local station asked, "Do you have legal action planned?" "Yes," Alicia said simply. "I am documenting every violation, every procedural error, and I will ensure that justice is pursued. This officer's actions will not go unnoticed, and I will make certain systemic change follows." Back in the precinct, Hawthorne's phone buzzed relentlessly. Texts from superiors, colleagues, and anonymous sources warned him of the growing storm. Social media posts dissected the night's events, highlighting every microaggression, every procedural misstep. The hashtags trended not just locally, but statewide. Hawthorne's confidence was cracking, and he knew it. Alicia walked past the flashing cameras, heading to a nearby coffee shop where her legal team awaited. The smell of roasted beans was a small comfort, a reminder that life moved forward even amid chaos. She joined her team at a corner table, laptop open, notes scattered. Video was already viral. Her attorney said, voice low but firm. Thousands have seen it. Comments are overwhelmingly in your favor. Public pressure is mounting. Alicia nodded, tapping her fingers lightly on the table. We need statements, witnesses, body cam footage. Every angle counts. He underestimates me, but I don't underestimate him. Not for a second. One colleague spoke up. Social media isn't everything, but it's an amplifier. People are paying attention, and that matters. Now we have leverage legally and publicly. Alicia's eyes met theirs. Leverage is only useful if we act strategically. We cannot rely on outrage alone. Documentation, legal filings, and coordinated advocacy, those are our weapons. The rest is theater. Meanwhile, Hawthorne paced in his office. "This is ridiculous," he muttered. "She's trying to ruin me. No one challenges me like this." A subordinate hesitated. "Sir, maybe we should consider issuing a statement. Calm the public." Hawthorne's hands clenched into fists. "I will not apologize. She provoked this. She made it personal. And yet..." His voice trailed off as he scrolled through Twitter. Every clip, every replay, every comment felt like a spotlight on failures. The irony was not lost on him. He had intimidated countless citizens, silenced witnesses, and yet here he was, exposed by a woman he had assumed powerless. Back at the coffee shop, Alicia leaned back, rubbing her temples. Exhaustion pressed at her, but she couldn't relent. Every tweet, every comment, every video shared was a step toward justice. And the more the public saw, the more Hawthorne's carefully constructed shield of impunity fractured. A notification popped up on a laptop, a news alert. Viral video, Officer Harasses civil rights advocate, public outcry ensues. She read the article, noting the quotes, the framing, the undeniable evidence now in public hands. Her phone buzzed again, messages from fellow civil rights directors, community leaders, and journalists. Everyone wanted statements, interviews, and commentary. Alicia replied methodically, balancing transparency with strategy. "Keep your eyes on the facts," she told her team. "Don't get swept up in emotion. Our credibility is as important as the outrage itself." The hours blurred as she moved from call to call, crafting statements, coordinating with lawyers, and reviewing footage. The initial fear of arrest had transformed into a laser-focused determination. Every detail mattered. Every narrative counted. By evening, the story had hit local and national news. Hawthorne's name trended alongside the hashtags. Editorials criticized the department, questioned policies, and highlighted systemic racism. Community groups organized rallies, demanding accountability. Hawthorne, isolated in his office, stared blankly at the screen. His colleagues avoided eye contact, whispers following him like shadows. For the first time, he felt the weight of consequences pressing down. Every microaggression, every abuse of power he had committed now glared back at him, amplified by public scrutiny. Alicia finally stepped onto her balcony at home, rain-slicked streets below. The next morning, Alicia Freeman entered her office at the Civil Rights Directorate, the weight of the previous night pressing against her shoulders like a physical force. The familiar scent of polished wood, paper, and coffee offered small comfort, but the intensity of what lay ahead left no room for ease. She set her bag down, pulling out her laptop and a neatly organized folder labeled Hawthorne Incident. Morning, Alicia, her assistant Teresa, said, already sorting through documents. I've compiled witness statements, social media footage, and preliminary reports from last night. Alicia exhaled slowly. Good. Every piece counts, Teresa. Every detail. Her eyes scanned the room, calculating strategy, prioritizing steps. We'll need body cam footage, dash cam logs, internal reports, anything that documents his actions. Teresa nodded. I've contacted a few of our legal allies. They're ready to file the complaints formally. We should move fast before any internal cleanup begins. Alicia's jaw tightened. We move meticulously, but we move decisively. This isn't just about last night. It's about systemic patterns. I want a full history, complaints, disciplinary actions, anything Hawthorne's department would try to bury. Her office phone rang. She answered quickly. Freeman. Ms. Freeman, this is Detective Alvarez from Lakewood PD. Came the voice. I understand you're reviewing the incident. We secured the footage you requested from body cams and patrol cars. Alicia's pulse quickened. Thank you, Detective. Please make sure it's preserved exactly as recorded. No edits, no alterations. Understood. Alvarez replied, We're taking this seriously. After hanging up, Alicia turned to Teresa. Everything you did last night, every move, every intimidation, is now verifiable. The video is intact, witnesses are willing, and his colleagues are already uneasy. This is our leverage. Teresa frowned slightly. You know he's going to fight back. He has allies in the department. Some will try to discredit us. Alicia's lips pressed together, determination flaring. Let them try. Every procedural violation, every lie he tells, will be exposed. He won't get away with it this time. Later that afternoon, Alicia met with a small team of lawyers and civil rights investigators in a conference room filled with whiteboards and legal binders. The walls were lined with posters detailing historical civil rights milestones, a reminder of the larger battle she represented. We'll begin with internal complaints. Alicia instructed, voice firm. Any previous incidents Hawthorne was involved in, however minor, every case he touched, every citizen he harassed, compile it. If there's a pattern, it will strengthen our case. One lawyer, James Whitman, raised an eyebrow. Some of these files might be difficult to access. Departments tend to protect their own. Alicia nodded, unfazed, which is why we document every attempt to obstruct us. Obstruction itself is evidence of systemic negligence. Keep detailed records of every call, every email, every denied request. A junior investigator interjected. Social media coverage is already widespread. Public pressure might help push things along. Public awareness is a tool, Alicia said, but it is not a strategy. Our case stands on facts, evidence, and law. Outrage alone will not guarantee justice. Hawthorne, meanwhile, had returned to his precinct office, pacing. He reviewed the clips circulating online, each view a reminder of his diminishing control. This can't be happening, he muttered, glaring at the screen. She's overreaching. No one. His partner, Officer Mills, leaned against the doorframe. Sir, maybe we should consider cooperating. At least internally, manage the narrative. Hawthorne's eyes flickered with anger and disbelief. Cooperate? With her? Never. I'll handle this. I always do. Mills hesitated, sensing the growing tension. Just be careful. Public attention is escalating. Hawthorne's jaw tightened. I don't need caution. I need compliance. And she won't get it. Back at the Civil Rights Directorate, Alicia pored over evidence late into the evening. The body cam footage revealed the subtle ways Hawthorne had escalated the situation, his body language, the microaggressions, the threats veiled as commands. Each frame, each pause, each expression was a piece of a puzzle she was determined to solve. She called a young man who had been harassed the night before, ensuring his account was detailed and preserved. His voice shook with residual fear, but he relayed every detail with clarity. I didn't do anything, he said softly. I just walked home, and it felt like I didn't exist to him, like I was already guilty. Alicia's chest tightened. You weren't guilty. None of this is your fault. You did the right thing by staying calm, by letting us record it. Your bravery is part of what will hold him accountable. Meanwhile, social media buzzed. Clips of Hawthorne's aggressive behavior were shared thousands of times. Local news stations picked up the story, and community activists began organizing forums to discuss police accountability. The public was becoming an unintentional ally, amplifying the scrutiny and applying pressure from multiple angles. Public pressure alone won't dismantle him, Alicia reminded her team, but it will make obstruction difficult. We leverage the evidence, and the system will respond or it will be forced to. Hours later, as Alicia reviewed internal documents, she discovered a troubling detail. Hawthorne had a history of complaints that were dismissed quietly, often with minimal disciplinary action. A pattern emerged, microaggressions escalating to harassment, procedural violations, threats, all systematically minimized. "This is why he's bold," she murmured, running a hand through her hair. "He's relied on the system protecting him." Teresa placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "Not anymore." Alicia nodded, determination solidifying into strategy. "No, not anymore. We expose the pattern, the negligence, and the abuse. Public pressure, legal action, documentation. It all works together. By the time this ends, he will have no shield." At the precinct, Hawthorne's frustration reached a boiling point. Every phone notification, every news update, every tweet reminded him of his vulnerability. The arrogance that had protected him for decades now felt like a noose tightening. He slammed his fist against the desk. "She thinks she's untouchable. She's dangerous." One junior officer hesitated. "Sir, maybe we need to consider mitigation?" Hawthorne glared. "Mitigation? There is none. This ends my way or not at all." Across the city, Alicia's team continued compiling evidence, coordinating witness statements, and securing copies of body cam footage. Each detail added weight, each statement reinforced the narrative. Hawthorne's past, once obscure by departmental complicity, was now a roadmap to accountability. By nightfall, Alicia leaned back in her chair, exhaustion etched across her face. The room was silent except for the hum of the laptop and the faint click of keys as Teresa finalized reports. Every document, every video frame, every witness account had been cataloged and preserved. "This is only the beginning," Alicia said quietly, almost to herself. "But it's the beginning of the end for him." Alicia Freeman sat in the modest conference room of the local community center, the hum of fluorescent lights overhead blending with the distant chatter of children in the adjoining gym. A stack of folders sat on the table before her, each containing statements, photographs, and notes detailing encounters with Officer Daniel Hawthorne. Her heart tightened as she reviewed each page. Each represented a life affected, a story of fear, humiliation, or injustice. "You'll want to take your time with these," said Marcus Ellis, a longtime community organizer. "Some of these people haven't spoken about him in years." Alicia nodded, gripping her pen tightly. "I need everything. The patterns, the inconsistencies, the things that never made it into reports. If we're going to hold him accountable, we have to show the system failed systematically." The first person to enter was a young woman, Jasmine Carter, her hands fidgeting with the strap of her bag. Her eyes were wary, scanning the room before settling on Alicia. I don't even know why I'm here," she whispered. "You're here because what happened to you mattered," Alicia said gently. "I can't promise it will be easy, but your voice can make a difference. We can finally make the system listen." Jasmine exhaled shakily. He stopped me once when I was 15, just walking home from school. He accused me of lying about my address. Threatened to arrest me if I didn't follow his orders exactly. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do." Alicia leaned forward. "You did what any human would. Trusted the rules to protect you. And yet he abused them. That is the story we are telling now. Not just yours, but everyone who has felt powerless under his authority." Jasmine blinked, tears threatening. "But will it change anything?" Alicia's voice was firm. "It will. Your story, combined with others, will expose him. The evidence is real, and the public is watching. This time, the truth won't be ignored." Next came Tyrone Jenkins, a man in his 30s, tall and solid, but his posture carried years of wary caution. "I thought I could forget it," he said, voice low. "But it's like he follows you, even after the fact. He humiliated me in front of my colleagues. Called me lazy, untrustworthy, made me feel like I didn't exist." Alicia's fingers rested lightly on the folder before her. "You will never have to relive it alone. Every word you say tonight, every detail, is part of the evidence. We're building a pattern of behavior, a history he can't hide." Tyrone's eyes glistened. I don't want revenge. I want it to stop. For someone else. So no one else has to." "That's why we're here," Alicia said softly. "Not revenge. Accountability. Justice. You speaking up protects others, and that is powerful." As the evening wore on, more victims arrived, men and women, young and old, each with their own story of intimidation, microaggressions, or outright harassment. Each narrative built a mosaic of systemic failure, highlighting Hawthorne's unchecked pattern of abuse. Alicia listened intently, asking careful questions, documenting every emotion, every nuance, every fear. One older man, George Williams, cleared his throat. "I was a teacher at Lincoln High. 10 years ago, he accused one of my students of theft without evidence. He humiliated the boy publicly in front of the entire class. I tried to intervene. He almost arrested me instead." Alicia's pen flew across her notebook. "This is exactly the type of intimidation that shows systemic abuse. Documenting it all strengthens our case. Thank you for trusting me with this." George's eyes softened slightly. I didn't want anyone else to go through it." The weight of their stories pressed down on Alicia, heavy but grounding. Each account revealed more than individual injustice. They painted a portrait of a man empowered by complacent colleagues, protected by systemic gaps, and emboldened by years of silence. "I can feel it," Marcus Ellis said quietly. "The fear he created didn't die with those incidents. It lingered in these people, and now it could become proof that change is necessary." Alicia nodded. Every story, every record, every witness, combined with the footage from last night, it's undeniable. We will build a case that can't be ignored, no matter who tries to dismiss it. As the last victim left, Alicia gathered her notes, carefully cross-referencing statements with known incidents. The patterns emerged clearly: harassment escalating, intimidation normalized, complaints ignored or minimized. Each step confirmed the systemic nature of the abuse, reinforcing the stakes of the investigation. Her phone buzzed. A text from her attorney, James Whitman. "Preliminary review of internal complaints confirms patterns. He has more than we initially expected. Ready to escalate." Alicia exhaled, letting a small surge of determination fill her chest. "Good," she whispered to herself. "We're ready. Now it's about connecting every thread, every person, every violation." Later that evening, she returned home, the city lights reflecting off rain-slick streets. Exhaustion weighed heavily on her, but she could not rest. She opened her laptop and began compiling statements, organizing footage, and drafting motions for internal review. Every keystroke, every sentence was a step closer to accountability. Her mind replayed the faces of those who had come forward, the fear, the trembling hands, the hesitation before words, but also their courage. It was a reminder that the fight for justice was never solitary. Their bravery had given her the fuel to pursue Hawthorne with precision and resolve. A knock at the door startled her. It was her colleague, Elena Parker. "You've been at this all day," Elena said softly. "Are you holding up?" Alicia leaned back in her chair. "I'm fine. More than fine. The stories, the evidence, it's all aligning. We can't let him off the hook this time." Elena nodded. "Just remember, Alicia, you're carrying more than your own fight. Be careful. It takes a toll, and no victory is worth losing yourself." Alicia's lips pressed together. She had felt that toll already. The fear, the exhaustion, the emotional weight of reliving trauma through each victim's eyes. But she also knew the cost of inaction was higher. "I understand," she said quietly, "but we have to see this through. For them, for me, for every person who's been silenced." Night deepened. Alicia stared at the city skyline from her apartment window, rain dripping softly against the glass. The story she had heard tonight lingered in her mind, vivid and haunting. She could feel the system's weight pressing down, but for the first time, she also felt the weight of strategy, evidence, and moral certainty. Hawthorne had underestimated her. He had underestimated the people whose lives he had affected, and he would soon see the consequences of that miscalculation. Alicia whispered into the quiet apartment, almost to herself. This ends now, not with vengeance, but with truth. Every person who feared him will finally be heard, and he will not escape it. The rain tapped against the glass like a metronome, marking the slow march toward justice. Alicia Freeman, exhausted but resolute, prepared herself for the next steps: confrontation, exposure, and accountability. Every thread was in place, every story documented. The fight had grown, expanded, and sharpened, and she was ready to wield it. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the Lakewood Police Department parking lot, reflecting off the patrol cars like shards of glass. Alicia Freeman walked toward the precinct with measured steps, her heels clicking against wet pavement, a rhythm of determination. Today, she would confront Hawthorne, not in the courtroom, not in the press, but directly face-to-face, armed with the weight of evidence, witnesses, and public scrutiny. Inside the precinct, Hawthorne sat behind his desk, reviewing the latest online coverage of his arrest and the viral footage. Each tweet, each comment, each replay felt like a strike against him. His hands clenched around the edge of his desk as he muttered under his breath, This can't be happening. She can't do this." "Sir," Officer Mills said cautiously, "Miss Freeman is here to see you." Hawthorne's eyes flicked up, narrowing. "Send her in," he said, voice tight, controlled. Yet a subtle tremor betrayed the unease beneath his bravado. Alicia entered the office, calm, eyes steady, shoulders squared. She carried a folder under her arm, bulging with evidence, statements, internal complaints, video stills, witness accounts. Hawthorne's gaze flicked to it, a flicker of apprehension crossing his features. "Freeman," he said, forcing a neutral tone, "I didn't expect you here personally. I thought it would be more effective than emails or calls," Alicia replied smoothly. "And I want to make sure you understood exactly what this means, for you, for the department, and for the people whose lives you've impacted." Hawthorne leaned back, smirking slightly, though it lacked conviction. "You think you can intimidate me? I've been here 20 years. I've dealt with people like you before. You're passionate, sure, but passion doesn't equal power." Alicia set the folder down on his desk, the weight of it thudding softly against the wood. "No, passion doesn't equal power. Evidence equals power. And inside this folder is a record of your actions. Every violation, every complaint, every abuse has been dismissed or minimized. You've underestimated how much impact those actions have had and how far they can reach." Hawthorne's eyes flicked to the folder, then back to her. "You're bluffing. There's no way all this can hold up." Alicia leaned forward slightly, her gaze sharp. "Bluffing is for those who don't have facts. Look closely, Daniel. Every statement from victims, every video clip, every internal report, they all tell the same story. A pattern, a system that allowed you to act unchecked. And now that pattern is exposed." For the first time, Hawthorne's smirk faltered. His hands flexed on the desk. "Exposed? You think a few statements, some video, some posts online, that's exposure?" Alicia's voice dropped, deliberate, each word slicing through the tension. "It's exposure when it's undeniable, documented, and corroborated. It's exposure when the public sees what you've done. And it's exposure when the law follows every thread of your misconduct." Hawthorne's jaw tightened, the color draining slightly from his face. He leaned forward, trying to regain dominance. "You don't know what you're dealing with. I have colleagues, superiors, people who will protect me. This ends for you before it even begins." Alicia's eyes hardened. "You overestimate loyalty and underestimate accountability. Every obstruction, every lie, every attempt to intimidate me now becomes evidence against you. You relied on silence, but silence no longer protects you." He slammed a fist on the desk, rattling the folder. "You think you can destroy me with words and papers? with people's memories and tweets. Alicia remained calm, almost serene. No, I'm not destroying you. I'm holding you accountable. There's a difference. Destruction is blind. Accountability is precise. And you, Daniel, are precise in the ways you abuse your authority. That precision is now recorded, documented, and undeniable. Hawthorne leaned back, breathing heavily. His eyes darted to the door, to the windows, anywhere but directly at her. For a fleeting moment, vulnerability flickered across his features, an emotion he had long suppressed. "You don't understand," he muttered, voice lower. "I've done what I had to maintain order." Alicia's lips pressed into a thin line. Order for whom, Daniel? For those you protect, or for yourself? You've terrorized the people sworn to protect, manipulated the system for your own comfort. And now the system, the law, the public, the evidence, is turning against you. Hawthorne's face flushed, a mixture of anger and fear. You're just like them," he spat. "You think you're better than me, smarter than me. You don't know what it's like to have this responsibility." "I do know responsibility," Alicia said evenly. "Responsibility isn't a shield. It's a burden. And when you use it as a weapon against the vulnerable, that's not responsibility. That's abuse. And every person whose life you've affected can now testify. Every microaggression, every threat, every intimidation, all documented, all undeniable." Hawthorne's hands trembled slightly, betraying the growing panic beneath the surface. You can't." "I already can," Alicia interrupted, her voice calm but resolute. "I have the evidence, the witnesses, and the law, and the public is watching. Every move you make from this moment forward will be scrutinized, every attempt to obstruct documented, every lie traced. You are no longer untouchable." The room was silent for a moment, tension so thick it seemed almost tangible. Hawthorne's mind raced. His decades of authority, his carefully cultivated reputation, all threatened to unravel in front of a woman he had underestimated. Alicia tapped the folder lightly. "Daniel, you have a choice. You can cooperate, accept accountability, and mitigate the damage. Or you can continue to resist, and everything in this folder will become public, amplified by witnesses, lawyers, and social scrutiny. Your career, your credibility, your life as you know it ends if you continue down that path." Hawthorne's hands clenched, his face contorting with a mixture of rage, fear, and disbelief. You're a fool," he whispered. "You think I'll just give up my career? You underestimate the reach of truth," Alicia said softly, "and the consequences of ignoring it. Every victim, every witness, every piece of evidence, they will ensure the system holds you accountable. You are no longer above it." A silence fell over the office, broken only by the hum of the air conditioning and Hawthorne's labored breathing. The confrontation had stripped away layers of pretense, exposing the raw vulnerability beneath his authority. Finally, Hawthorne's voice trembled. You're going to ruin me." Alicia met his gaze evenly. "I am going to ensure justice is served. Not ruin. Justice." He recoiled slightly, as if the distinction itself stung. "Justice for you? For them? You don't know what you're unleashing." "I know exactly what I'm unleashing," Alicia said. "A system that works as it should when someone refuses to stay silent. You underestimated me, Daniel. That was your first mistake, and it will be your last." For a long moment, Hawthorne stared at her, the air between them charged, electric, a tension born of decades of unchecked authority meeting unflinching accountability. You won't get away with this," he muttered finally, voice low, trembling with suppressed panic. The morning sun reflected off the glass facade of the Lakewood Police Department, casting long beams into the lobby. Alicia Freeman stood just outside, flanked by her legal team and a group of journalists, cameras already flashing, microphones extended. The viral footage of Hawthorne's harassment had spread across news outlets nationwide. Social media platforms were ablaze with outrage, witness statements, and commentary from civil rights organizations. Today, the culmination of weeks of strategy, evidence gathering, and advocacy will be felt inside the precinct. Inside, Officer Daniel Hawthorne sat rigidly in a conference room, papers and folders strewn across the table before him. He had been summoned to a formal administrative review, facing departmental leadership and Alicia Freeman herself. For the first time in decades, he felt exposed, unshielded, vulnerable. Alicia entered the room, calm, eyes steady, the folder containing compiled evidence tucked under her arm. She radiated authority, tempered by the knowledge of every victim's story she carried. Hawthorne's gaze flicked to her, a mixture of anger, fear, and disbelief simmering behind his veneer of control. "Good morning, Officer Hawthorne," Alicia began, voice deliberate. "Today, we address the actions you have taken over your tenure, actions that have impacted countless individuals in this community. We are here to ensure accountability, transparency, and justice." Hawthorne's jaw tightened. "I've served this department for 20 years. I followed the law, upheld standards. You have no right." "You were given authority to protect and serve," Alicia countered, voice rising slightly, emphasizing the weight of her words. "Instead, you chose intimidation, harassment, and the abuse of your position. The evidence is clear, undeniable, and corroborated by victims, witnesses, and video documentation." Hawthorne's hands clenched on the table. "You think you could destroy me with your words and papers?" "I'm not destroying you," Alicia replied evenly. "I am holding you accountable. Every single complaint filed, every instance of harassment, every procedural violation, you will face the consequences of those actions. And the public, the law, and your own department will ensure it." The room was silent for a moment, the weight of inevitability pressing down on Hawthorne. Then a lieutenant spoke, voice neutral but firm. "Officer Hawthorne, we reviewed the materials. There is substantial evidence of misconduct. This will not be dismissed lightly." Hawthorne's face drained of color. "This is preposterous. I protected citizens, upheld order. All of this is exaggerated." Alicia leaned forward slightly, her gaze unwavering. "Exaggerated? Every statement, every video clip, every witness account corroborates a pattern. Your pattern of abuse and intimidation. The public has seen it. Your colleagues have acknowledged it, and the law will not overlook it." One of the witnesses from past incidents, Jasmine Carter, was present in the back of the room, her hands gripping the edge of her chair. Her eyes met Alicia's briefly, a silent thank you for the courage it had taken to face her past. Hawthorne's voice shook. You can't do this. You don't understand the system. My superiors, my connections, they'll..." Alicia cut him off, calm but piercing. "I understand exactly how the system works, Daniel. And that is precisely why I have prepared meticulously. Every attempt to obstruct accountability is now documented. Every ally you have underestimated will now bear witness to your actions. You are exposed and there is no escape." The lieutenant cleared his throat. "Officer Hawthorne, the Internal Affairs Division has recommended immediate suspension pending a full review, given the public exposure and the evidence presented. This is standard procedure." Hawthorne's hands trembled. "Suspension, just that? You can't, they can't." "Yes," Alicia said softly, almost serene. "Yes, and there will be a thorough investigation. Every violation, every complaint, every incident, no matter how long ago, will be reviewed, and the findings will determine your future." Hawthorne slumped slightly, the room's fluorescent lights reflecting off the sweat on his forehead. His arrogance, which had shielded him for years, had finally crumbled. Outside the conference room, community members and journalists waited, sensing the shift in power. Phones and cameras captured moments of the administrative review, documenting the reckoning in real time. The public's gaze was unrelenting, a silent army holding authority accountable.